Hi everybody! In today's video we'll be looking at the poem Watching for Dolphins by David Constantine. I'll be giving you a short summary followed by line analysis, and we'll be looking at the main themes explored as well as the key language devices that Constantine uses in the poem. Before we get into the poem, I'd just like to give you a few notes about Greece in the summer. During the summer months, July and August, many Greeks and tourists leave the heat of Athens for the islands. One of the most famous island groups is the Cyclades, which are located in the Aegean Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, and you can see a picture of the Cyclades just there on your right. To reach the islands, you must take a ferry from Piraeus, a busy passenger port in Athens, the capital of Greece. Many of us will have heard of the Greek islands, although there are many different island groups. The particular islands referred to here are the Aegean Islands, and these islands have been well known since ancient times for their light, clear blue waters, and they feature in many Greek myths. And you can see on your screen here just a couple of pictures of different Greek islands that I've been lucky enough to visit. A very beautiful place that the speaker of the poem is returning from on his way back to Piraeus, which of course is in sharp contrast to the natural beauty of these islands. Another quick note, this time on dolphins in ancient Greece. Dolphins had very positive connotations for the ancient Greeks, and they featured prominently throughout ancient Greek culture and mythology. You can see a couple of pictures there on the right hand side, and they were seen as intelligent animals who protected humans and came to the rescue of people in need. They were thought to be musical, even magical creatures with special powers, and many myths connect them to the gods such as Apollo, who was said to take on the shape of a dolphin. Let's just take a quick look at the title, Watching for Dolphins. The use of the present continuous watching suggests that the quest is ongoing, it never ends. If you'd like to hear a complete reading of the poem, then please click in the top right hand corner now, where you can hear me read the whole poem. In stanza 1, the sense of continuity suggested by the title is taken up in the first line with the word every, which shows that what the speaker's about to describe has happened many times before, almost like a routine. However, rather than being part of the action, the speaker is at this stage a detached observer, and he informs us about the passengers who leave the busy seating area to watch for dolphins. It seems as though they're embarrassed by their actions and do not want to make eye contact with fellow passengers, even though they're all doing the same thing. They're still individualistic rather than acting as one. Constantine makes extensive use of enjambment here, meaning that the lines run on from each other without any punctuation to break them up. Perhaps this is done to emulate the fluid motion of the passengers rising up to go outside, and it's only in the final line of the stanza that the line is interrupted by caesura, a break in a line of poetry, in this case with a full stop. Significantly, the stanza ends on the negative word lose, foreshadowing the disappointment to come. The rhyming scheme for stanza 1 is A, B, A, C, D, E, but this is not repeated in subsequent stanzas. Constantine makes use of I-rhymes with the words rose, purpose, lose, which look as though they should rhyme as they all end in OSE, hence being called I-rhymes, but they don't, adding to the uncertain mood of the stanza. In stanza 2, we find out what is lost. The passengers hope to see anything other than dolphins. The speaker describes the different people who hope to see them: lovers, an overweight man, the typical foreign tourist perhaps, weighed down with photography gear, as well as others, hopeless themselves, the adjective hopeless already establishing a disappointed mood, who also include children. Despite their differences, the passengers are united in their wish to see dolphins. The lovers, who should be fully focused on each other, turn their attention to the sea, and the use of the word occasion shows how important this event is to the fat man and how he desperately hopes to capture it with his camera. Here, Constantine uses a striking simile to describe how the fat man stared like a saint, the first of many religious references in the poem. It could be that waiting for the dolphins to appear has put the man into a state approaching religious awe, like someone awaiting the arrival of a holy person, and that this expectation somehow elevates him, an ordinary person, to the status of a saint. The striking use of sibilants here again sounds a discordant note, cementing the uneasy mood of stanza 1, strengthened by the personification of the man's bifocals, which are described as sad. Interestingly, children are presented as most likely to see dolphins. Is this because they're more alert, more attuned to nature? If dolphins are connected to the divine, as we know they are, does this mean that children are too? Either way, the quest to see dolphins continues. The stanza ends with the words day after day, indicating the passengers continue this ritual of watching for dolphins for a long time, and we can see the same pattern repeated from stanza 1 of breaking the final line up. Stanza 3. The specific passengers described in stanza 2 have now expanded to include all passengers, as seen with the word all. Everyone is caught up in watching for dolphins now. The increasingly desperate passengers scan the sea for signs that dolphins are near, reminding us of ancient prophets and prophetesses who would study nature for omens or messages from the gods. One thing to comment on is the unusual word order of line 3, essentially describing a rough sea, which may be a deliberate attempt to convey the passengers' confusion as they attempt to interpret the signs. Additionally, the rhetorical questions help us imagine the anxious conversations the passengers are having with each other as they try to read the signs. As in stanza 2, the use of sibilants in lines 5 and 6 heightens the tense mood as well as helping us to hear the commotion of the gulls as they fall screeching from the sky. It's worth adding that in antiquity, birds were seen as messengers from the gods, and like the ancient Greeks before them, the passengers tried to decipher the movements of the birds in the hope that they will reveal something about the dolphins' whereabouts. Stanza 4. The religious references scattered throughout the poem culminate in stanza 4, with extensive use of religious and classical imagery. The verb implored in line 1 sets the tone, a word with religious overtones meaning to beg or pray. The passengers are now praying to the sea to make the dolphins appear. Everyone, we are told, craves epiphany, the appearance of a divine or supernatural being, so here an explicit link is made between dolphins and divinity. Onomatopoeia is used to describe what the passengers wish would happen. Words like cymbal, gong and drum evoke religious processions and heighten the sense of excitement that seeing the dolphins would produce. The repetition of praying and prayer further emphasize how this desire to see dolphins is now a desperate spiritual need, and indeed, as the last line makes clear, this stanza represents the climax of their anticipation, putting us in mind of devotees whipped up into a frenzy by religious contemplation. It's worth commenting on the phrase abused Aegean, highlighted here by the use of assonance or the repetition of the same vowel sounds at the start of 2 or more words. Perhaps the Aegean is abused by the passengers' insistent prayers, or else it hints at man-made environmental pressures that ironically make the dolphins less likely to appear. In stanza 5, the speaker imagines the appearance of the dolphins and uses an interesting simile to describe them, once more using sibilants. They are depicted as smiling, a clear use of personification, supporting the positive connotations that most of us have about dolphins, whereas the shape of their beaks is described as snub-nosed, again encouraging us to think of them as somehow human. The last image in this extended simile is that of satyrs, a mythical creature from ancient Greece, half human, half horse, known for its carefree attitude and love of life. The joy this sight would evoke is made clear by the exclamation "oh," and words such as laughter. Once again, children are part of the enjoyment, linking back to their mention in stanza 2. Perhaps in their joy, the adults feel like children again, able to feel simple emotions intensely and purely. The religious imagery is continued with the word grace, suggesting the dolphins are elegant and graceful creatures, as well as linking to the idea of a blessing from God. The last line, following the same pattern as every stanza apart from stanza 4, states that we should have felt them go, so seeing the dolphins affects the passengers primarily on an emotional or even spiritual level. Stanza 6. This idea is corroborated by the continuation of the line. The deep parts in line 1 of stanza 6 may well refer to the deep parts of the sea that the dolphins dive down to, but it seems likely that Constantine wants to impart the idea that seeing the dolphins touches the passengers somewhere deep inside them, offering them a profound sense of fulfillment, even self-discovery. However, this is dashed before the line is over. The conjunction "but" signals that something is wrong, and indeed the ferry and its passengers are now nearing Piraeus, having left the magical Aegean behind, and with it, any chance of seeing dolphins. The bleak imagery of the final stanza, the great tankers, the black water, paint a depressing picture of human industry and the destruction of nature hinted at in stanza 4 in the phrase abused Aegean. Furthermore, the symbolism of under their chains hints at the oppressive reality of many of the passengers who must now return to their everyday lives. If they were under something like a spell before, now it is broken. As the speaker says, we had not seen the dolphins, but woke, blinking, as though woken from a dream. In the final lines, there is an echo of the first. In both cases, the passengers make no contact with each other, though in stanza 1, this reticence is born of hope, whereas here, their reluctance to acknowledge each other is the fruit of bitter disappointment, which they nevertheless refuse to admit to. Whatever unity the speaker imagined has now gone. Real life, embodied by the city, beckons once more, and each passenger reverts to his or her individual self. The poem, therefore, ends on a downcast note. The passengers have not seen the dolphins after all, and by extension have failed to find whatever spiritual or emotional fulfillment they were seeking. Some of the themes that Constantine explores in his poem include humanity's search for spirituality or a deeper meaning, and the difficulty of finding that spirituality in the modern world. He also explores the loneliness of our modern individualistic life and the satisfaction we get when we are able to bond with other people. He also touches on the theme of wanting to feel connected with the natural world and explores the environmental pollution caused by human activity. Lastly, he explores the idea that children are somehow more in touch with both the natural and spiritual world. Thanks for watching this analysis of Watching for Dolphins by David Constantine. I really hope you found it useful, and if you did, please share, like and subscribe to my channel by hitting the subscribe button now. Thank you and see you next time.